All right. Good afternoon, everybody. We still have a couple coming in from the waiting room, but we will go ahead and get started. Welcome to May's Technology Mod. Today's topic is Under Your Nose Accessibility. My name is Angelina Alpert, and I am a Senior Program Area Specialist at the University of Missouri Kansas City Institute for Human Development. So today we're going to do a quick overview of Missouri's No Wrong Door. We're going to talk about our vision for accessibility, and then we are going to learn about built-in accessibility features. So, a little bit about Missouri No Wrong Door for those of you that are unfamiliar. Missouri No Wrong Door aims to transform the way people access services in the community. So, it supports individuals and caregivers to make decisions on complete and accurate information about their options for anyone seeking long term services and supports, regardless of age, income, or disability. We have a lot of state partners for the Missouri No Wrong Door, one of which is Missouri Assistive Technology, who we do this open door series collaboratively with. So, a little bit more about the series. The goal of the series is opening doors to integrated supports. So as you can see here, we have our integrated support star and the 5 areas of supports and services that any individual should have in order to have their services integrated in their life so that they could live the life that they choose in the community of their choice. So we currently have 2 series that we offer, one of which is the technology series, which you're at right now, where we talk about personal technology, assistive or adaptive technology, or environmental technology. We also have our Missouri Open Door Benefit series, where we talk about eligibility specific programs. So those are going to be needs based, whether it's age, geography, income level, a specific disability or diagnosis. Um, and we do those in collaboration with our MIPA partners. So that is Medicaid Improvements for Patients and Providers Act. The other 3 areas of the integrated support star are personal strengths and assets. So things that a person is good at, things that they already have as belongings, things that others like and admire about them, relationships, whether it's family, friends, acquaintances, and then community-based services and supports, which are just places in the community that anybody would have access to, like businesses, parks, groups, or membership organizations. So, as I mentioned, our goal is to integrate those services and supports in everybody's support system. Typically, you will see that middle circle in which a person has services that can sometimes unintentionally seclude them from the family and community that they want to be a part of. And so we want to make sure that we are integrating those services and supports into a person's life so that they are able to live the life that they want. So, a little bit about our vision for accessibility. We are going to use one of the Charting the Life course tools. If you are unfamiliar with Charting the Life course, it is a framework and set of tools that help you think differently about your vision for a good life, set high expectations, and integrate multiple types of supports. It also helps you organize your ideas, visions, and goals, as well as problem solve, navigate, and advocate for supports. And these are just some of the icons that are used within Charting the Life course. So the tool that we're going to be using today for our vision for accessibility is a trajectory for exploring. So in this tool, in the top box in the purple, we have our vision for what we want. This can be used for specific topics, such as we're doing today, like accessibility, or this can be used for your life in general, and the vision you want for your life in general. Below that, we have the vision for what we don't want. And then above the line is going to be things that are going to lead us towards our vision for what we want. And below the line is going to be things that lead us towards our vision of what we don't want. So while today we're talking about built-in accessibility features for things like Apple, Google, and Microsoft, this trajectory is for accessibility in a more broader term, both physically in the community, but also as it relates to technology. So, a vision for what we want would include things like accessible transportation, housing, and communities, accessibility information. So, if a business in the community is accessible and there's an accessible entrance, making sure that that information is easily accessed so that it's not difficult for people to find. Technology that is easy to use, usable right out of the box and inexpensive. So it doesn't take a lot of extra effort to set up once you have purchased the technology. Accessible communication formats, and inclusive attitudes. So things that would lead us towards that vision would be policy changes, universal design, and more people being knowledgeable about accessibility. And what we don't want would be attitudinal barriers, physical and technological barriers, a specialized device that looks different from everybody else's, and technology that is expensive and complicated to use. And what would lead us towards that is people not understanding disability and accessibility. And then with that, I am going to pass it over to David Baker, and he is going to talk about built-in accessibility features in Apple, Google, and Microsoft operating systems.
All right. Thank you very much, Angelina. And good afternoon, everybody. I know there's a lot of folks here on the call as I was looking through the names, folks that I know. Always good to spend time with you. For those folks that are not familiar with me, again, I'm David Baker, and I'm the director of Missouri Assistive Technology. Missouri Assistive Technology is Missouri's federally funded Assistive Technology Act program. And so our mission is to increase access to and acquisition of assistive technology for all people in Missouri, all ages, all disabilities. So it is always fun to talk about built-in accessibility features in the Apple and the Google and the Microsoft operating systems. This has been an area that has been evolving over the last decade and has really kind of, I think, in the last couple of years, begun to go into directions that are game changing in the world of assistive technology and also game changing for people with disabilities. And earlier, when Angelina was explaining some of the tie-ins to the Charting the Life course, there were a couple of things that she had on the trajectory slide that I made note of. One of the things I think is super cool about this whole subject of built-in accessibility features is that it is the beginning of what I hope will be further development in terms of designing products so that they are universally designed and recognizing that disability is part of the lifespan and just building in these tools to make things equally accessible for everybody in the beginning. So we're seeing it a lot in these operating systems, but it's starting to move outside of the computer realm into appliances and other types of mainstream technology. So I love this trend towards universal design that we're seeing. And so hopefully if we move on to the next slide, kind of have a couple of objectives here. This is a subject that we could talk about a lot. They are constantly coming up with new accessibility features in each one of these operating systems, and there are great tools in there, and then there are all sorts of little sub tools. There's lots of ways these things can be put together, and lots of great features that are available. So what we want to do today is just have a broad understanding of the key built-in accessibility features that we find across all the major major platforms, so Google, Apple, and Microsoft. And then build your awareness so that you know these tools are in there, kind of what these tools do, kind of think about the features of these tools within various operating systems. And then as you're going about your day-to-day work, assisting people or in your own personal life, knowing these tools are in there and being able to identify instances where they are practical, they're useful, they're assistive technology that maybe can benefit somebody and level the playing field and make something possible for them. If we move on to the next slide, and I kind of talked a little about this here a couple of minutes ago. Again, the fact that they are building in accessibility tools that are essentially assistive technology right there in mainstream technologies is a great example of universal design. It also recognizes or begins to recognize things that I know many of you on this call hold dear, and that is inclusion is a right. It's not a bonus. And unfortunately, sometimes if you look at assistive technology, we have to go out and find technology to work with technology. So the fact that we're reducing that burden on people because we're including these features up front is a wonderful type of development. Plus, we all know that technology is an enabler. And an enabler in the sense of it makes things possible for people with disabilities. And so again, if we have something that is technology and I can use it right out of the box, then it helps me be able to achieve something. It also, this trend towards building accessibility features also begins to underscore this idea around disability is just part of the human experience. These companies like Apple and Microsoft and Google and other companies out there are beginning to realize that humans are diverse. There's no sense designing things for one size fits all. There are many of us that have vision and hearing and mobility issues and cognitive issues. And so building in these tools recognizes the diversity of humans out in our communities. And I think that is, again, a very valuable trend and something that I hope will continue far into the future. So if we move on to the next slide, what we want to do is just do a quick overview of the platforms. Okay, so I've already mentioned multiple times that we're going to talk about accessibility features that are in the Apple platform, in the Google platform, and the Microsoft platform. And these go across the various devices each one of these companies make. So Apple, we know, makes phones, they make tablets, they make their laptops. And so their operating systems, their general one for phones is just their iOS, and then they have another one for their iPads, their Mac. And so Google, Android is essentially Google. So your Android phones are going to kind of come under the Google accessibility features. Folks that use Chromebooks, that's another Google tool, and they have their Chrome operating system. And then Windows has its various versions of the software that are on laptops and desktops. Plus, they also have the cloud-based one, Microsoft 365. So these tools, generally speaking, are available in all of these operating systems, regardless if it's a Mac or a Microsoft laptop or a Google Chromebook. There are some variations in tools that are available, or maybe some of the features of some of the tools, depending on the particular device and operating system. But that's just sort of an FYI. It's not a huge thing. It's just some slight variations from time to time. And that's, a lot of times, maybe there'll be a slight variation early on, and sooner or later that same tool is equally across all the platforms. So just again, to keep in the back of your mind. So these are available again on we're going to talk about things in the Apple, the Google, the Microsoft environment that apply across multiple devices. Moving on to the next slide. We will start with the types of accessibility features that are right under our noses for the Apple environment. And if you have not ever familiarized yourself with these built-in accessibility features, then I strongly encourage you to. If you've got an Apple device, or later on we're talking about Android or Google devices or Microsoft devices, if you have one of those devices, might be a good time to get it out and kind of maybe follow along here a little bit. It's super simple to find the accessibility section within each one of these devices we're going to talk about today, or each one of these operating systems. For the most part, in the Apple environment, just simply find the Settings app, which is kind of gray, and it kind of looks like a spoke or a cog, or somebody referred to it the other day as a stove. Kind of looks like an old-fashioned stove. Anyway, so if you find the Settings app and you just simply open it up, on the left-hand side in the Apple environment, you'll see this whole list of other things that are in the Settings app. One of them is going to jump right out at you. It's about halfway down in the column. It's called Accessibility. You touch there and it takes you into all these wonderful tools. It used to be a little more difficult. You had to dig a little bit in some of these operating systems to find these accessibility features, but as time's gone on, they've made it easier to find them. So again, if you haven't spent a lot of time just fiddling around with the accessibility features in your device, I encourage you to kind of spend some time doing that. Moving on to the next slide, we'll dig in a little more on what exactly are in all these various operating systems in terms of accessibility features. Nearly, I think, yeah, this is true for all of them, all three of them. The way that they have set up their accessibility features is around sort of disability type. So pretty much everybody has a suite of tools for folks that have vision issues, a suite of tools for folks that have cognitive issues, another suite of tools for folks that have mobility issues. They all kind of use that same categorization. So, if I'm somebody that has vision related issues, then I want to obviously find that section within the accessibility features on whatever device I am utilizing. So the key features for folks that have vision issues that we find in the Apple operating environment are going to be VoiceOver, Zoom Magnifier, display and text size, and spoken content. And so to kind of briefly flesh out each one of these a little bit, VoiceOver is essentially a screen reader. So what it does is it describes the content that's on my screen. So it can read text back to me, it can tell me what app I'm on, it can explain the various print and graphic information that most of us just take in visually. It turns that into an auditory format. It is really amazing how much of a game changer that has been for people that have vision impairments. I can go out and buy a screen reading software program. It can cost me around $1,000, but the fact that this now essentially a screen reading software is just built in, and I can turn it on for free as part of my device is super cool because it opens up so many opportunities for me to independently utilize the computer. For folks that have vision loss, then there are two key vision tools that are built into the accessibility features in the Apple environment. The first one is Zoom, which is, like the name implies, it enables me to enlarge essentially anything that's on my screen. So I have various levels of magnification that I can select, so I can customize it to my particular needs. Magnifier is a digital magnifying glass. So with it, I can zoom in on various objects, and then it can also describe objects around me. So think about somebody who maybe is having difficulty reading something or seeing a hobby they're doing or reading a menu at a restaurant or something like that. This is a simple tool that is right there that can enable them to be able to do that task independently. There are lots of sort of variations in what needs people that have low vision have in terms of magnification, color contrast, et cetera, and these are all features that can be customized to your particular needs if in the display and text size area of the options for vision in the Apple operating environment. So I can customize colors, I can adjust text size, I can do transparency, I can do different types of color contrasts. Whatever I need, there's probably a setting in there that will match my particular need. And then spoken content, this is sort of an interesting thing. I have a little bit of a issue with Apple on where they've put this. Spoken content is a really cool feature that enables somebody to read any text have any text on the screen read out loud. And it can include letters and words that are being typed as well, if I remember correctly. It is under the vision accessibility features. However, I think, and I'll try to remember this as we get further on down the road, it's really useful also for a lot of people who have cognitive issues. Think about struggling readers in particular, because I can easily, through two finger swipes, have content read to me on the screen that might otherwise be inaccessible to me. So those are just four of the key areas in terms of vision devices or vision technology that's just built in already in the Apple environment. So if we move on to the next set of devices, this is another, there are lots of nice tools that are being built in into the accessibility settings in Apple that are related to hearing, and they kind of keep coming up with more and more things all the time. The first one, so sound recognition, live listen, mono audio and visual alerts and live captions, I think, are the four most impactful of the hearing tools that are in there. We could also have a whole conversation about how hearing aids and Apple have kind of begun this symbiotic relationship to improve hearing aid technology, but that's for another day. So sound recognition is kind of a cool tool. Again, it is most useful for folks that have hearing, but it can also be useful in some other situations for some other disabilities as well. So what sound recognition does is it is listening for specific sounds. So let's say I want to know if my dog's barking and somebody rings the doorbell, but those aren't sounds I easily pick up on. And so I can go in there and I can actually set, do pick a couple of selections. One's dog barking, the other one is doorbell. And if I have those turned on, when the device picks up that sound, it's going to give me an alert. It's going to notify me that the door's ringing or the dog is barking. Live Listen uses your device's microphone to amplify sound in a number in noisy settings in particular. So you turn on your device, you access Live Listen, the microphone's going to pick up the sounds and it's going to enhance those sounds for better listening. I should have probably done audio settings and sensory alerts instead of mono audio and visual alerts on this slide, because and this is an example where they kind of keep adding things. So audio settings is a way that I can customize the audio preferences to meet on my device to fit my needs. And so early on, the first one they had in these devices was actually mono audio. So where it the example where it benefited somebody is, a lot of things that we listen to are in stereo, but not everybody has equal hearing in both ears. So if I have something that's coming in stereo, but I have hearing loss in one ear, then I wasn't catching all that information. I could adjust the sound that I'm hearing so that it's all coming into the ear that hears better. And that was kind of the idea when they had mono audio. But now they refer to it as audio settings. And so a variety of tools in there that help me customize how I hear audio. Visual alerts, they now call that sensory alerts. And so it gives me notifications through sound or vibration or flashing lights or all three to signal to me certain pieces of information that I need, like a notification or some other alert that I want to make sure that I'm catching in a timely manner. And then live caption is real-time captions of live conversations. And so it's a pretty good tool. I've used it in a number of different environments. It's really handy for conversations, especially maybe one-on-one conversations in a smaller room where I'm trying to capture everything that somebody is saying. I can actually have that captioning done in real time right there and understand that individual better. Moving on to the next slide. We're going to look at a couple of things that are in here for physical and motor issues that people encounter. And we're going to start with the four in particular I want to highlight are assistive touch, switch control, and voice control and keyboard customizations. And these have all, again, just like everything else, each version of the operating system that comes out, each update, it seems like they throw in a few more neat little features to make these even better and even more useful by even more individuals. So assistive touch is a way that I can customize the interface of the touchscreen. It is not easy for all of us to reach out and do direct select. And our tablet devices, our phones, they're very reliant on being able to go down, touch what we want to open, like an app, and do it in a certain time frame. Some people, it takes them longer. Their finger stays maybe on that app longer, and instead of it opening up, it goes to the squiggle thing, as an example. But I can customize uh, my interaction with the touchscreen. So I can maybe increase the amount of time that my finger is allowed to dwell there before that app opens up or before something else happens. They have, again, kind of along the lines of not everybody can do direct select. Some of us need to add switches, and there's a variety of switches out there. Nearly all of them, in some way, shape, or form, can be used with an iPad. And so through switch control, I can add adaptive switches, external hardware, game controllers, and other types of devices to help me be able to better control and operate my device independently. Voice control is a way that I can navigate using various types of voice commands. And so a very handy tool for a lot of folks that have physical issues but have good voice capabilities. And then keyboard customization. There are a variety of alternative keyboards that you can get as apps to use with your in place of the keyboard that automatically comes on the iPad. And so I can do that through keyboard customization. I can also do things to make typing easier and make adjustments on the keyboard. Like say, for instance, I find it difficult to do two keystrokes at the same time. There's ways I can customize my device to be able to do that easier and have it be less difficult for me to get certain operations to happen. Moving on now to, I think we have cognitive is the next slide, if I remember right. And this is the area that Apple has really kind of begun to add stuff for folks that have cognitive issues on a more regular basis. They started early on when they came out with the iPad. One of the first things they put in here was guided access. And guided access was a great tool. It still is a great tool. It's really useful, in particular in schools. And what it does is it allows somebody to essentially be locked into an app. So you have somebody who maybe gets super excited to have their device in front of them, and they want to you want to keep them maybe using a communication app or an educational app, and through guided access, you can limit their access, and so it keeps them essentially in that app so that they stay focused on doing what it is they're supposed to do on the device and don't go jumping out to other things. So this could also be useful in employment settings or other situations, but it was really in school districts that really benefited from this to keep students focused on the types of things that the educators wanted them focused on. Focus modes are excuse me, focus modes are some tools to help me be able to customize notifications and calls so that if I'm easily distracted, I can do some settings. And the idea there is to keep somebody focused on a particular task that they're supposed to do and not get distracted by their device. There are certain ways we can now use Siri and a feature they call shortcuts to streamline various tasks and make it easier for somebody to do that task. Usually this reduces cognitive load, also reduces the amount of physical effort that somebody has to put into an activity. Something I didn't put on this slide, and it's a little bit of an oversight, actually it's a big oversight on my part. One of the most recent additions for folks with cognitive concerns is a feature called assistive access. And assistive access, in some respects, is kind of a somewhat similar to guided access. What it does is it enables you to be able to tailor your device to lighten the cognitive load. And so you can limit the number of apps that somebody has in front of them. It actually makes these apps larger. It changes the color. It's just a number of kind of cool things that it does. We found this, it's useful for a wide variety of folks, but one group that just in the last few months we've found this useful for, or who's been using this more, are individuals who have memory loss. They still want to interact with family and friends, maybe through through FaceTime or some other app that's on a device like a tablet But once they open up the tablet, they get overwhelmed by all the apps or some other issue kind of gets in the way. And so by turning on the assistive access feature and having them essentially on a limited menu of apps that are right in front of them, that are larger, that have better color contrast, it enables them to still independently use the device and not get overwhelmed by all the other things that are on the device. So this is a really nice feature that they've added here in the last one or two operating system upgrades. All right, so those are some of the key ones in the Apple environment. And if we move on now to, oh, I forgot about live speech. This too is one of the cooler things that they have added in the last couple of operating systems. This is essentially, and I waited for this for a really long time, and I think it's the first of several things they're going to do in this regard over time. But live speech is essentially augmentative communication built into your Apple operating system. So as I type words, it will speak them out loud. I can also have phrases pre-typed into my device and use those as speech as well. So right now, live speech is, I would say, kind of reliant on people, kind of only usable by folks that have literacy, so they can type in real time and be part of the conversation. But I kind of am predicting that they are going to kind of do some symbol-based stuff somewhere down the road in one of these next operating system upgrades. So this was a first. This was the first speech-related thing that they had put in. Really useful. Again, it's another kind of example of a game changer. So before we move on to devices in the Chrome operating environment, one of the things that we often say to folks about these built-in accessibility features, besides get familiar with them and share them with other folks, is that these are also starting assistive technology tools. So I might want to be exploring with somebody some forms of assistive technology, but I can't access other types of devices readily, but I can still work on a concept. So the example here would be, let's use live speech as our example, and somebody who we're exploring augmentative communication with. And so, we show them how that can be their voice, get them to maybe pre-program a few phrases if they are not literate, and see how well they respond to that. Can they interact with it? Can they use it in their voice? Do they use it appropriately? These things that we look for. So these can be standalone devices in a lot of instances, but they can be entry level. Let's explore assistive technology tools as well. So something to keep in the back of your mind as another way that we can explore and benefit and share and learn about assistive technology through some of these built-in accessibility features. All right, moving on. Let's talk about what's in the Google operating system here a little bit. And I don't know what the deal is at Google, but both in the Android environment and in the Chromebooks, I do not feel like they make their accessibility features stand out, and they have some really nice ones. But if you, again, kind of look for that thing that looks like a gear, and that will be your settings, and you open that, and it will take you then into where you will find your menu of accessibility settings. So moving on to the next slide. Some of the things that they have built in for vision, talkback, magnification, select to speak, and then color correction or inversion. So these are very similar tools to what we've talked about already in the Apple operating environment. Talkback is their equivalent of VoiceOver. And just let's see, I'm trying to remember. Talkback is what it's called in the Android environment. In the Chromebooks, it is known as Chromevox, but again, it's essentially a screen reader, and so very useful for folks that have vision, who are blind. They have a number of magnification tools built in that enable me to have everything on the screen magnified, or I can do a little magnifying glass that I can dock in various locations to magnify certain areas of the screen or move it around. And then select to speak allows users, it's kind of like the, oh gosh, I'm drawing a blank on the Apple one that I can operate. Ah, jeez. Anyway, disregard that little conversation I had with myself there. But select to speak is it allows users to select text to be read out loud. So it's not the whole, it's not everything. It's just a section that maybe I want to have read to me quickly because I'm struggling with it for some reason. And then color correction and inversion. Those are all those, like being able to change contrast in one thing and another to make print or content that's on the screen easier for me to be able to see. So moving on to the next slide of options in the Google environment, which are hearing. And so live transcribe, sound notification, live caption, and mono audio. Again, these are very similar to what we have talked about already in the Apple operating system. These are just the versions of that same technology that we see built into the Google and Android operating environments. Next slide. Also for physical and motor, again, we kind of have some of the some similar options in the Google environment, though there are some, there are differences, even though there are similarities. They each kind of have their own little take on how to provide this accessibility in their particular operating system. But voice access, it lets users control their device and navigate apps while using voice commands. So again, very useful for somebody who can't do direct selection. We have built-in switch accessibility options as well. Switches help somebody be able to interact with their device. So maybe there's different types of scanning that somebody might utilize to help them be able to navigate through apps or navigate on a web page or other types of activities they're doing. And then accessibility menu adds a large on-screen menu with shortcuts for common functions like, say, taking a screenshot or adjusting volume and brightness. So again, this is a way of reducing cognitive load and physical load to make it simpler for somebody to do common functions on their device. Moving on to the next slide. Some of the things that are built in for folks that have cognitive issues. We kind of talked about focus options in the Apple environment. Google has some similar things to help somebody not be distracted by their device or distracted by phone calls or notifications and keep them kind of locked into what it is they're supposed to be doing. There's also ways you can simplify the user interface in the Chrome and Android environments, and then ways again to speed up or reduce physical or cognitive load through creation of various kinds of shortcuts and routines. So very similar options to what we saw in the Apple environment, just with slight different twists that kind of are obviously designed to make what Google believes better accessibility for folks. Moving on to the next slide, we will talk about Microsoft operating systems. And this is actually, a lot of us probably believe that these great built-in accessibility features began with Apple because Apple is very good at marketing. And they did a lot of commercials when they started to build in these accessibility features. And so the truth of the matter is the first accessibility features that we saw built into operating systems were built into Microsoft systems many, many years ago. And that's without getting too far in the weeds, the fact that Microsoft started building these in is actually a testament to good advocacy on the part of many folks with disabilities who really were concerned when computers began to be so popular and so heavily used that they were going to kind of be cut out of the computer age without accessibility features built in. So moving on to the next slide, we will kind of use the same format here where we look at things along vision and physical and hearing. So some of the things that Microsoft has built in for the vision arena, or to help folks that have various types of vision issues. Narrator is their version of a screen reader. And so again, like TalkBack or VoiceOver does the same thing where it's reading the content on the screen, be it print text, graphic, et cetera, et cetera. They too have a built-in magnifier. And have the ability to do some contrast types of things, high contrast themes there. I can increase and decrease the text size and the display options in ways that are customized to my particular needs to meet what it is that I need to make it easier for me to use my device independently if I have low vision. And then immersive reader. Again, they have this under their vision, and I think it's really useful for a lot of folks that have cognitive issues that we'd consider to be struggling readers. But it's a reading tool that improves readability. So there's a lot of folks that can benefit from this. And so improves readability by offering text to speech. I can adjust the spacing, the fonts, the background colors, lots of helpful ways that I can set this up to my particular needs. So really helpful not only for folks with vision who need those features, but also folks that have attention challenges or individuals who have dyslexia with all these customizations, the text to speech, the adjustable spacing, the font changes, the background colors, all the ways that I can take that text and manipulate it so that it's just easier for me to be able to see it and interact with it. Moving on to the next slide. This is hearing, again, very similar in terms of there's some stereo setting things to help me be able to take sound and adjust it so that I can fully hear it. Mono audio was I think they've made some changes to this, but mono audio was the initial one that takes stereo and then enables me to adjust it to whatever ear is my better ear. Live captions, it's kind of self-explanatory. It's captioning of material in real time, and sound notifications to help me be able to understand what's in my environment if I may not be able to hear it, like the doorbell or the dog or some other sound, door slamming or something like that. Moving on, and this is where I think Microsoft does a really, really nice job, are the tools that they have for folks that have physical and motor issues. One of the things that they have that is kind of hidden, or at least I think it is an on-screen keyboard. And it's actually an on-screen keyboard that, if I remember correctly, you can do scanning with. And so it's really difficult for a lot of folks to be able to look at a keyboard, look at the screen, look at the keyboard, look at the screen. And so by superimposing a keyboard on my display, then it can make it easier for me to be able to type and know what I'm typing and know that it's correct. And so this little on-screen keyboard just floats on the display. And so I can have my Windows doc over here, or my Word document over here, and my on-screen keyboard, and whatever access method I need, I can manipulate that on-screen keyboard to put text into that document. And it's all right there in front of me. And I don't have to go play the ping pong game of looking down, looking up. And they have had this on-screen keyboard in there since, oh my gosh, at least 10 or 15 years. And it's one of the more hidden, readily accessible, great pieces of assistive technology that are out there. We're also starting to see more eye control. And I just realized that when I was talking about Apple built-in accessibility features, I totally forgot to mention when I was talking about physical and motor that they now have eye gaze built into the Apple operating system, and it is really good. Lots of cool things one can do with eye gaze to utilize their device, interact with apps, et cetera, et cetera. One of the other great things that Microsoft has had built in since essentially day one has been speech recognition. This is a really nice, robust speech recognition software program that is built in already in the Microsoft operating system. So I can, I can move around on my device. I can do speech to be able to do a Word document or to write an email or things like that. And so going back to what I said a little bit earlier about these tools can also help us to discuss and consider and assess assistive technology for individuals. If you have somebody who is really thinking that the mouse and the keyboard are a real struggle for them, and the answer for them they think is going to be speech recognition, then find a device that's on a Microsoft operating platform like a laptop or a desktop. Get familiar with speech recognition, and that's a great way of seeing how effective that tool is going to be for somebody without having to go out and get a program like Dragon or some other type of program. And so finally for physical and motor, years ago, they put these in the sticky finger or the sticky keys, filter keys, and toggle keys, and everybody else has kind of replicated these in their operating systems over the years. So sticky keys lets a user press keyboard shortcuts one key at a time instead of having to do simultaneous keystrokes. Some folks will maybe drag their fingers along the keyboard and they get characters in the document or the email they're working on that they do not want. So the filter keys ignores those sort of uh, brief or repeated keystrokes, and then toggle keys um, is kind of a neat little feature that it has sounds associated with caps lock, number lock, and some of those other things we turn on and off. But you get an auditory sound to help you know that you have it turned on or off. So a great little suite of physical and motor tools that are built in there in the Microsoft operating environment. Moving on to the next slide. They too have started to build in features for folks that have cognitive issues around the focus and keeping people focused. They have a neat little tool called task scheduling that enables users to automate tasks or set reminders to help, again, in particular, folks that have attention deficit disorder or some other types of cognitive or memory issues, and it's very useful for helping them stay organized and to manage daily tasks. And then the reading tool I already mentioned earlier, Immersive Reader, really nice for a lot of folks that are struggling readers, have dyslexia, have attention issues, et cetera, et cetera. So moving on here to the next slide, Angelina. So I strongly, it's almost like having to talk multiple languages in some respects. I would encourage everybody to get familiar with the tools that are built into these operating systems. As I was talking here, I was actually looking around on my desk, and I use the Windows operating system in my desktop and my laptop, but I have this iPad sitting over here, and I also have an Android-based cell phone. So, I have all these tools, and that's a common scenario where a lot of us are using multiple devices with different platforms. And so getting familiar with all the features across all the platforms is a really useful thing to help us all become a little wiser about the cool assistive technology that's out there. Common features that are across all these platforms, as you've probably already noticed, the screen reader, the magnifiers, the voice controls, the caption features, those are common. And then everybody has a lot more neat little tools. Some of them are, just kind of depending on the operating system. So as I've kind of played with these over the years, with some strengths of each one, I'm not saying one is better than another. I think all of them have wonderful applications and are useful in a lot of different environments. But Apple, if it has a strength, I'd say it's sort of its seamless ecosystem, and it's also a pretty intuitive device, be it a phone, a tablet, or a MacBook. Google has the live transcription and the real-time tools are pretty innovative, and so that kind of gives them a leg up in that area. And then if I was supposed to pick what some strengths are in the Microsoft operating system, those literacy tools, Immersive Reader, I think is great. And then some of those other features that are built around helping somebody be able to more effectively use the keyboard are really nice little tools as well. So as we all know, with any form of assistive technology, it's not one size fits all. We have assistive technology right under our noses on a daily basis and all these commonly utilized devices that nearly all of us use. And so, like all forms of assistive technology, choosing the right set of tools, which are sometimes based on the operating system, is key to making sure that you are doing good matching of devices with individual needs. So moving on to the next slide. And this is, I have Angelina, I did not send this to you in advance, but I have set up a comparison table, which maybe we can distribute out to everybody afterwards, that lists all these features and then what their names are in the various operating systems. So you see a couple of examples of that here on the screen. They all have a screen reader of some sort or another. They just all have different names. VoiceOver in Apple, TalkBack in Google, and then Microsoft calls it Narrator. So just this might be something that we can distribute out later. And but to save everybody a little cognitive load, this is a nice little tool that I started to set up a couple of years ago to kind of help people keep things straight. And then I think I have one more slide. Oh, yes, they all have these wonderful resources. So do not ever feel like you are alone in exploring these things. All three of these companies, Apple, Google, and Microsoft, have whole sections on their websites that are designed to help you get familiar with the built-in accessibility tools. Not only are they an overview, but they'll help you understand how to use them, how to set them up, how to operate them, how to integrate them with apps, and all the ways that we might be using these to help ourselves or somebody that we work with. So these are rabbit holes, honestly, that you can go down. I've been known to spend hours just looking at the Apple accessibility tools on their website and kind of going through the videos and reading the manuals, et cetera, et cetera. So really, really helpful tools that all these companies have put out to help people understand these super great things that are built in that are great examples of universal design. They enhance inclusivity. They prevent us from having to go out and find assistive technology in other forms. And they are socially acceptable across society. So I often think of those students who are using some of these tools in their schools, and they just click them on, click them off, and they are using the same device, the Chromebooks, tablets, et cetera, that their non-disabled peers are, and they're not sticking out and being self-conscious about their special form of technology that only they use. They are blending in beautifully and hopefully succeeding as human beings. So that is all I have. Thank you so much for lending me your ears for a little while, and good luck and have fun and explore these wonderful tools.
All right, thank you, David. If anybody has any questions, please feel free to pop them in the chat or raise your hand, and we can go ahead and get you unmuted. While we're waiting to see if anybody has any questions, I'll go through the next couple of slides. As usual, these get recorded and posted to the Charting the Life course YouTube. So if you want to go back and look at any of them, those are all there. They also get sent out in a follow-up email. So we'll make sure to include that table that David has created in that follow-up email. Let's see, I do see we have a question come in. If someone has hearing issues but not bad enough for hearing aids and the loudest volume isn't enough, what would you recommend?
Good question there, LaDonna. Um, so the live captions, I might fiddle around a little bit with that, so that you could get those real-time captions of live conversations. If I'm assuming here, actually, you're talking about the Apple environment. I could be wrong about that. Um,
In this
yeah.
case, it's an Android.
Okay. All right. Yeah, and I think yeah, they have they have something similar. Geez. Yeah, they have the live transcribe. I think that's what they call theirs. So I might uh, start with that, but that's actually I know how to get a hold of you, Lenana. Let me think about that a little bit more. I don't feel like that's my best answer.
Okay, thank you.
Uh-huh.
Okay. All right, Scout says a Bluetooth speaker could be helpful.
Yeah, true.
But not
Um,
if you're on the go and you're in the car and
Yeah.
there's so many different times. If you were just sitting in your house, that's fine. But if you're in Walmart and need to call somebody, it
Yeah.
makes it difficult. So that's just a couple of examples. I appreciate your help.
There, yeah. LaDonna sticks in the back of my mind, and I'll have to go double check this, but I saw something not too long ago. This kind of intermediary, it's like a personal device. You put it in the ear, and it's sort of an intermediary between hearing aids and just normal exchange of, yeah. So if I can put my finger on that, that might actually be an answer.
Okay. Scout also mentioned a cell phone amplifier. And then whatever we come up with, we can put in the follow-up email as well. That way everybody uh, has access to that. This is our schedule for the rest of the year for both the tech series and the benefit series. The benefit series is going to be the second Wednesday of every month from 12:30 to 1:30. Our next one is June 11th on the long-term care ombudsman. And then for the technology series, our next one is going to be June 25th on digital safety. And all of these links will be in the follow-up email. Other than that, if you have any other questions about charting a life course that we went over in the beginning, our website is lifecoursetools.com. You can find the tools that we went over on there. Here is David and I's contact information. And thank you, David, and thank you everyone for joining us today. And if nobody else has any questions, have a great day, and we will see you next time.